Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking ahead, trying to get a handle on how technology is going to reshape government. We've got a couple of interesting sources lined up for this.
Yeah, two different angles, really. One's very focused, like right now looking at specific predictions for 2024.
And the other source takes the long view, paints a picture of, government and citizens maybe 20 years down the road, around 2040.
So our job today is basically to unpack these, pull out the key stuff, the surprises, and figure out, well, what does all this tech change actually mean for you?
Okay, let's dive into that first source then. It really jumps into the sheer speed of tech change expected just this year in 2024.
Right.
They make a point that it's not slow progress anymore. Stuff can shift fundamentally, like overnight.
Right. And that speed is kind of the context here. It really shrinks the timeline for government, which, let's be honest, usually moves a bit more deliberately.
Totally. And prediction number one, maybe not a huge shocker, is that generative AI is set to, well, change the world in 2024. I mean, 2023 was a massive year for AI, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly, everyone had access to these incredibly powerful tools.
Yeah, doing things that seemed impossible just a little while ago.
Yeah.
The source actually gives some wild examples from last year, like Google's DeepMind solving some math problem, a matrix thing that humans couldn't crack.
Wow.
Yeah, and AI helping find new antibiotics, even NOAA and NASA using it to get better at predicting solar storms. Oh, and robots getting much more lifelike.
But there was a catch in 2023, right? The source flags this big bottleneck,
Right.
a major shortage of the special computer chips you need for this kind of AI.
Exactly. These things like NVIDIA's H100 chip, they cost, what, over $25,000 a pop?
Each. And you need hundreds, maybe thousands for one project.
Right. So the source points out that slowed things down, and it pretty much kept smaller companies or researchers out of the game. Only the big players could really afford to push the envelope.
Which raises questions about, who gets to innovate.
For sure. But here's the prediction for 2024. That chip shortage is expected to basically disappear early in the year.
Okay.
New chips are hitting the market. NVIDIA's got a new one, the H200. Plus, competitors like Intel are bringing out their own AI chips. So, more supply, more options.
Ah, okay. So the hardware constraints loosen up.
Pretty much. And the source argues that means the barrier to entry drops. Smaller companies, startups, universities, they can actually get involved now. You can tweak existing AI models faster.
So the takeaway is kind of like the AI genie is properly out of the bottle now, fewer technical limits, ready to really shake things up this year.
That's the gist of it, yeah. Big changes expected.
Okay, let's shift to prediction two from this source.
Yeah.
Government and the military embracing and mastering 5G. Now, 5G hasn't had quite the same, explosive public buzz as AI.
True, but the source says it's making real solid progress within government, kind of behind the scenes.
Even the military is actually leading this.
Seems like it. They highlight the U.S. military's 5G strategy implementation plan. It sounds like a very deliberate push across all the services.
And it's not just any 5G. The source mentions a shift.
Right, moving from what they called non-standalone 5G, which was kind of 5G software running on older 4G networks, to actual pure 5G networks.
Okay.
The example given is the DoD's JADC2 program, Joint All-Domain Command and Control. Basically, a pure 5G network meant to link up everything, sensors, apps, comms across Army, Navy, Air Force, everyone, all at once.
It sounds like a huge undertaking.
It is, and the really interesting next step, predicted for 2024, is rolling out something called Open Radio Access Networks, or ORAN.
ORAN. Why is that significant, especially for the military?
Think of it like this. Old networks used very specific hardware and software, usually all from one company. ORAN breaks it down. You can use more standard, off-the-shelf hardware, run stuff in the cloud. It's more modular.
Ah, I see. More flexible.
Exactly. The source says the tech is there, but it needs serious security testing. Places like Idaho National Lab are working on that right now.
Okay.
But the officials mentioned in the source seem confident it'll be ready for wider use in 2024. That means the military could set up secure, private 5G networks pretty much anywhere, quickly, without being locked into one vendor. Could really make the U.S. military a leader in using 5G.
Gotcha. Okay, prediction three. This one feels a bit heavier. Technology making it harder than ever to secure the 2024 presidential election.
Yeah, and the source author even says they hope they're wrong about this one, especially looking at how contentious the election might be.
It's important to clarify what the source thinks is vulnerable, right?
Right, absolutely. They actually say the core mechanics The voting machines themselves, the vote counting, the certification, were secure in 2020 and should be again in 2024, mostly because the machines aren't, hooked up to the internet.
Right, the air-gapped system, so the risk isn't someone hacking the tally directly.
Not primarily, no. The big worry identified in the source is misinformation, manipulating people through social media, online platforms, that kind of thing.
And this connects back to the AI prediction.
Bingo. That's the scary link. Before AI, spreading bad information like calling people with fake polling places took a lot of manual effort. It was messy, didn't scale well.
But AI changes the game.
The source argues AI basically industrializes it. It can generate thousands of believable fake stories or messages automatically.
Because it can learn what sounds convincing.
Exactly. It can analyze tons of data, find what resonates, maybe twist a tiny grain of truth to make the lie seem plausible, and then it can push this stuff out everywhere, targeting specific groups.
So humans set the strategy, but the AI does the mass production and distribution of the misinformation.
That's the concern laid out. The source predicts this will be a huge issue in 2024, probably starting early, just bombarding voters like never before. It's definitely a sobering thought about the immediate downside of powerful AI.
Okay, so that's the near-term picture. Intense, fast changes, some big opportunities, some serious worries like election interference. Let's switch tracks completely and look at the second source, the 2040 vision. They call it the end of the internet revolution.
Right, a much longer horizon. This source lays out 5 predictions for what they call engaged government in 2040. It feels quite different from the 2024 stuff.
Okay, prediction 1, a more agile government. How do they see that working?
Well, they tie it to a couple of things we've touched on, interestingly. One is much better data, thanks to AI, which we'll get to more. The other is higher public trust, another prediction down the line.
So, good data lets government react faster, and trust means people are okay with that faster reaction.
Sort of, yeah. The idea is government agencies will commonly use agile methods. Think small pilot projects, trying out different solutions from different places all at once, constantly tweaking based on results and feedback. Innovation isn't a special event, it's just how things get done.
How does that apply to big long-term problems then? Does the source mention that?
It does. It suggests regular check-ins, basically. Collaborating periodically with the public and other groups to see if the solutions are still working. These reviews might happen on a schedule, or maybe if enough people raise concerns.
And the source suggests taking part in these reviews could become like a civic duty, like voting.
Yeah, that's a fascinating part of the vision. It really shifts citizen involvement from just giving feedback after the fact to being part of the actual governance process. Pretty different.
Okay, prediction 2. Increased reliance on artificial and augmented intelligence. Again, AI pops up, but framed differently here for the long term.
Right. Here, the focus is on AI handling the massive increase in data, sure, but
Yes, sir.
also taking over a lot of the routine drudge work that takes up people's time now.
And the benefit for government by 2040.
2 big things, according to the source. First, just having incredible amounts of information to make smarter decisions. Second, freeing up the human workforce to focus on the important stuff, checking data quality, thinking critically, making the better decisions, not just pushing papers or crunching basic numbers.
So managers spend less time overseeing routine tasks and more time evaluating strategies, maybe informed by AI.
That's the picture painted, like having multiple rich data sets available instantly for almost any issue.
And where does all this data come from?
And this is where it gets kind of futuristic. The source envisions sensors everywhere, collecting data on everything: weather, traffic, public health trends, crime patterns, economic activity, environmental stuff, even how people are using parks or roads.
Wow. And technology will be cheap enough by then to make that feasible.
That's the assumption. And this is crucial, the source predicts that by 2040, society will have figured out the rules. There will be agreed upon standards for protecting privacy, balancing individual rights with the public good this data allows. People will be okay with augmented intelligence, AI assisting humans, especially for routine decisions.
That agreement on data use and privacy seems like a huge prerequisite.
Absolutely critical for this vision to work, yeah.
Okay, prediction 3. The ubiquitous need for collaborative skills. This follows from AI freeing up time.
That's the link they make. With AI handling more routine stuff, people have more bandwidth. But why collaboration specifically? The argument is that problems are getting so complex that no one person or agency has all the answers or resources.
So solving big issues just requires teamwork across different groups.
Exactly. And the source gets specific about the skills needed: better communication, negotiation, being able to tell the story of why something matters, project management basics, using collaboration tech effectively, the soft skills.
And they predict universities will actually start teaching this stuff formally.
Yeah, adding collaboration to the curriculum because it's becoming so essential for public service, which suggests a real shift in what's considered core competency.
Interesting. Okay, prediction 4. A rise in volunteerism. It sounds like a big cultural shift. Government workers and volunteers side by side.
That's the vision. Community members actively involved, not just giving opinions, but contributing actual labor and ideas. They kind of compare it to how people move between public and private sector jobs, now predicting a similar flow between volunteer roles and paid government work by 2040.
What drives that? Why would more people volunteer?
The source points to a few potential drivers. An aging population with skills looking for engagement after retiring. Maybe AI actually frees up citizens' time too, allowing more community involvement. And just a stronger desire, perhaps, to pitch in and solve local problems directly.
So more ability and more motivation to volunteer.
That's the idea. Now, the source acknowledges government would need to figure out how to manage this defining roles, making sure volunteers complement rather than replace paid staff. But volunteers would be highly valued for bringing in outside expertise.
And while managing volunteers costs something, the net effect is positive, saves time and money.
That's the claim, yeah. But the source says the biggest benefit of this volunteerism is something else.
Which leads us to prediction 5.
Exactly. Increased citizen trust in government. This source sees trust going way up by 2040, and volunteerism is one key reason why.
How does having volunteers increase trust?
The thinking is, when people from the community are actually inside government agencies working alongside employees, it makes the whole operation seem more open, less mysterious. It's like an investment by the public, and it demystifies how decisions get made. By 2040, this is seen as just normal practice.
Makes sense. What are the other 2 factors boosting trust in this 2040 vision?
Second is a much bigger commitment to transparency, not just responding to requests, but proactively sharing data the kind AI helps gather within those privacy rules we talked about and making it super clear how government works, who does what, how to reach them. The expectation by 2040, the source suggests, is that finding this info should be easy and fast. No excuses.
So transparency becomes the absolute baseline expectation.
Right. And the third thing is just more interaction between government and the public, frequent, well-run, actually productive interactions. Beyond just voting on bonds, they imagine things like citizens being able to easily petition to get issues on the ballot, regular public forums that are designed for real discussion, and clear ways for people to flag problems and weigh in on solutions.
Okay, so stepping back and looking at both sources, you've got the 2024 predictions, very immediate, tech-driven, some quite concerning like the election stuff. Then you have this 2040 vision, much more optimistic, focused on engagement, trust, agility. What jumps out at you, seeing them side by side?
Well, it's that stark contrast, especially around AI, isn't it? Near term, the first source flags it as a potential tool for, frankly, messing things up like elections. Long term, the second source sees AI as almost essential for making government better, more agile, freeing people up, leading to more trust.
Yeah, it's like this same technology holds both the immediate threat and the potential long-term promise. The challenge is getting from here to there.
Exactly. The technologies creating headaches right now could be the very things that enable that more positive 2040 vision, but only if we navigate the rollout thoughtfully and build the right societal structures like transparency and engagement around them.
These sources really lay out the possibilities, the immediate bumps in the road, and the potential destination.
Yeah, we've covered a lot, from the nitty-gritty of AI chips and 5G rollouts impacting us right now, to this bigger picture of a potentially more collaborative and trusted government decades away.
We've seen that speed, the immediate concerns like misinformation, but also this possibility, this vision of technology ultimately supporting a government that people feel more connected to and have more faith in.
It definitely leaves you thinking.
It does. And maybe the big question hanging out there is, how do we deal with these immediate, difficult consequences of new tech, like AI, making misinformation easier in a way that actually helps us move towards that more engaged, transparent, trustworthy future that the second source envisions for 2040? How do we make sure the short-term problems don't derail the long-term potential?
Definitely something to ponder as you continue your own thinking on this.